Let me share my screen. Close this. Okay, I hope all of you have updated over here. I think some haven't. I'll just copy this and then put allow editing. So it will ask you to sign in. So you just sign in and quickly, just update your names over this one. Okay, those who haven't done it yet. And yeah, so yes. Right. So we actually previously we had planned to finish the database schema today, but we somehow managed to finish it in the last session itself. So I'll come over here, and you can see made a general schema for it. I did make a small change. We made article like stable, right? Same way I made a comment like stable, since the foreign key only points to one one table. We can't have two foreign keys within one, so a separate table that points to the comments table as well. And we've written out the queries over here. And the other addition was the image column in the user details, so we can store the image link over here. So what you can do is start your XAMPP. Okay. Uh, Actually, I did make this, but just for showing you it works. Let's drop this. Alright, so I dropped the database. I hope you do remember the syntax for that. Next, I'll come back here. Just come out of this. Here, come to your SQL tab and just copy paste the whole syntax. This is bit of let's copy it from here. Mm, and just put it here. So first I'm creating a database, then I'm using it, and within that I'm creating those tables. And yeah, it's all executed correctly. And if I go to the database, you can see all the tables are here with the required structure that I'm looking for. The default values are which is set and not null as well for all. Right, so you can just run it. It will not give you an error because I have tested it before. All right, so I mean, right now we don't have to worry about this much. So we just have created a schema, and we made the database as well. All right, and so that part is done. Right, next one was, yeah, okay, you guys, hopefully you're updating it right now. And yeah, we had a bit of a problem with hosting the SQL database, right? So I found this portal called Plan and Scale, where you can host MySQL databases for up to 10 GB. Before, other services it used to cost a bit. Most of them are paid, so I was able to find I was able to find this service called PlanetScale that hosts MySQL databases. So this is again, this is what we use. And the like one great thing about this is like GitHub, this also has the branches option. So you can have one main branch, another branch which you made. So what is planning is after we finish it testing it locally, then we can create a I mean, I've made like a dev branch here. Dev branch is development. So we'll test it out in a cloud SQL branch like this one. Once we test it in the development stage, then we can go back to the main and like call it like a production website. And yeah, you can just create a table over here itself within the console for the tab branch sake. Here also I can just say come to my schema, come to the top. I can just copy paste the same thing. Here it works only one column at a time, one table at a time. And I can enter this. And yeah, it's completed. So if I go to my schema, and yeah, you can see the schema over here. Since we won't be using it right away, just to drop table details. And yeah, it's done. Okay, so this is what we'll be using for our production website when we are hosting it. Alright, so we'll go to GitHub. Okay, I hope all of you have forked the repo. Uh, is there anyone who hasn't forked it yet, or you're having some troubles with forking? I mean,
I was
you can just
actually not present in one of the meet, so I don't know what are you talking about in this forking thing.
okay. All right, no issues. We can go through it quickly right now. Okay, so when you just come to this repo over here, okay, so you click on this fork tab over here. Since it's my own repo, I can't fork it.
I'll fork it from there. Yes.
Yeah, so it's my own repo, so I'm not able to fork it. That day I had Himanshu show it. It's alright. So once you fork it over here, it will show your name. Is it coming like that?
Yeah. It came. Yes.
Yeah. So your name, and it will show forked from this whole thing. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So then what you do is come to the code tab and just copy this.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me just share again. Alright. So it's showing right your name and folks from this.
Yeah, it's showing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So after that, you just copy this and go to your command line or bash what we're using, and just go to desktop only. Okay, and you can just do a git clone and paste the link. I've already cloned it, so you can just run this.
Sure, I'll do that.
Right, so after clone it, uh, it will be in your desktop over here. Okay, so just right click and open the code, and it'll open up like this. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so the next criteria what we were going to talk about is using Yarn. I mean, we started off with using npm, right? Node package manager to download all our dependencies. But this time, I'd prefer if all of you switch to Yarn instead. Yarn basically stands for yet another resource negotiator. But Why though? Why do we want to switch to yarn instead of npm, right? Okay, to start off, whenever you download a dependency using yarn, what yarn does, it stores a local copy of the updated dependency somewhere in your system. So the next time you're downloading the same dependency, it looks for your system. Do you already have that dependency locally? So if you have it locally, it just updates it in your package.json over here instead of having to download it from the internet. Second one is the whole process is a bit complicated because I haven't studied it fully myself. Apparently, it's yarn.log. This basically keeps an track of all your dependencies in your file and where it's downloading from. It does it in a much more organized and a cleaner way, and make sure that you always have the latest and the most stable version as compared to what npm usually does in the dash log file. Right, so I mean, those are too many. It's much quicker than npm and handles your dependencies in a much organized manner. Right, so yeah, so you can do that. So now, if you come to how do I install yarn, right? So either you can do it in your VS Code itself. Okay, so you can just come to your terminal. All right, you can just do npmi dash j yarn. All right, so you run this code, uh, and then I mean I've already installed, so I don't have to do it. But yeah, so you guys can run this code to install yarn locally. Okay, and by default, in our VS Code over here, it's the PowerShell that we use, not the command prompt. Okay, to use yarn in your PowerShell, you have to save some changes in your uh, or some file within your desktop. So that gets a bit complicated. So you don't have to use it. You can just come over here and you can configure terminal settings, and you can set which one you want to be your default one. So my default one is CMD command prompt. So I mean I can even put git and select default profile, so it'll make git bash the default one. Okay, so once you've done this, it will install yarn. So and don't, if you use it in your PowerShell, let me show it to you. So use it in your PowerShell. I'll just put yarn dash version. It'll give me an error, right? It's telling I need to update it in my, yeah, uh, in my system variable, something like that. So yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go into my file and change my setting. It works by default in command prompt. Okay, so I can just come here to yarn dash version, and yeah, so it works in my command prompt. You guys having any issue with this? Have you all installed yarn? Like any issues? Is it giving some error with this code over here, or any when you're trying to see if yarn is installed or not?
Yeah, no issues.
No issues, right? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once you do that, let's just compare some codes in npm. To install all the dependencies of a particular project, you have to do like an npmi within that project. What npmi does is it goes into your package.json file and takes a look at all the dependencies and installs all of them. In yarn, it's just a simple command. Just put a yarn and enter it, and it will install all the packages by itself, and it will create a yarn log file. But it's just a simple yarn. If you want to add a new dependency, it is as simple as yarn add and then the package name. This is for adding new dependencies. If you want to delete or remove, it's yarn remove package name. So that's the code. And if you want to save it in your local dev environment, so yarn dash dash dev, and
Hello, Bhaiya.
Yes, sir.
It's giving some error while installing yarn.
While installing.
Yeah, when I write npm i-g yarn.
Okay, so it's in your terminal, right?
Yeah, it's in my terminal. The forked one, the repository.
Or I mean, you're doing in VS Code, right? So what is it showing
Yeah,
over?
VS Code. It's a big error. Just a minute, I'll join through my laptop and show.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so yeah, I mean, to save it in your dev dependency, just dash dev and the package name. Okay, just let's see. I think he's using. Sally, are you using macOS?
Yeah,
You'll have to look into this their own.
It's giving this error. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, okay. Okay, that's
this
quite a big one.
some permission denied mkdir. This
Yeah, mkdir make directory, so it's not allowing to store yarn locally. Can you just copy these two alone and put in Google?
these.
Yeah,
Oh, just a second.
what is it saying?
And on Stack Overflow, it's showing something, the solution. Like first check who owns the directory and it's denying because of some.
I mean, it does seem a bit complicated with Mac.
It's showing this error shared uh, on Stack Overflow. It's showing this.
Is it the same one?
Yeah, I guess almost the same, not the
Okay.
same. It's for node modules, but showing the permission denied error.
Alright. So, what are the solutions they're telling? Change file permissions.
How to do this?
I mean, in the documentation for macOS, they're telling. Have you heard of something homebrew?
Yeah, Homebrew is installed.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're telling to run brew install yarn.
Okay, why Brew we have to install.
Is it working?
Okay, okay, I'll check. I'll check.
And yeah, just
Brew install yarn. It's running on the terminal. So.
running, right? All right. Because we want everyone to have yarn, so let's just wait and see.
Okay, I'll wait for it to install via terminal.
All right, sure. Just all right, yeah. Sorry. Is it working now, Sai?
I did that brew command, but it's showing something else. I'll check this with Stack on like try to work it and then I'll tell you.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yeah, can you repeat it again? What is the error?
But I'll check it with like first I need to via brew homebrew, then it will install something. I'll
So
try
is
to
it
do this
installed?
and then I'll
Is
first
it?
it's
Is
saying to install node via brew.
we've already installed Node, right? So I
Yeah,
don't
but
think it should.
it's saying to install node via brew. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it is. If you can install Yarn through Homebrew Package Manager, this will also install Node.js if it is not already installed.
Oh, it's downloading. So it's
All right, till it downloads,
yeah, yeah.
should we
You can
continue?
continue. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the next thing on the list was after installing Yarn, we'll take. Okay, this should be the fourth one. Let's get it down. Yeah. So understanding what libraries we are using in the project itself. Right? We'll just take a look at the ones that we already know. So we've worked with Axios since to make HTTP requests in the. Yes. Okay, let me share it. Okay, I didn't proceed much. Let's just do from first. So access is to send HTTP request from Node.js itself. Alright. Then we learned with have already used bgrep.js for hashing passwords, and next is cookie passer, so that we can accept cookies, and we can even accept delete cookies from the headers and even send cookies. EJS as a templating engine will basically render the JavaScript to make dynamic HTML. Then the Express library to create a server, more and
It's showing the version now.
sorry,
I'm saying that it's showing the version of Yarn now. Like I
yeah,
installed
okay,
the yeah, I installed a node with brew, so it installed everything.
installed everything. Okay, that's great. So yarn dash dash version is working, right?
Yeah, 1.22.17.
Okay, so basically now what you want to do is come to the your terminal and just run a yarn. Make sure you're within the drive itself. So this command will just install all dependencies of that project.
Just Yarn.
Yeah, just yarn. All right. Okay,
Yeah,
till
installed.
then. We work with EJs to create dynamic pages. Then obviously express the core library to create routes, create middlewares, and all that. So Express will be using. Then JSON Web Token, short for JWT, that for authentication and authorization. And yeah, these others we haven't seen fully yet. Uh, what we have seen other than that is your .env for environment variables, okay, and even node so that we don't have to uh, whenever we make some changes, the server will start by itself, so we don't have to do it ourselves. All right. So before that, I just want to show you this website, nph.com. Right, so where all these packages here, right? Suppose say the first one, okay, agenda. I'll just come to this website. I'll just type agenda, and yeah, so the exact match. And you can see in the description a lightweight job scheduling library for Node.js. Okay, so what this basically does is it runs a certain piece of command in certain intervals. Why I thought we'll use it here was because suppose say there's a user who hasn't logged in for 1 year, so there we can like cross check it with their last login. If it's greater than 1 year, then it will automatically run the delete user command, so we don't have to do it manually. Using this library agenda, we can set it up to check every 1 year for a particular user, whether the user has logged in or not for in within that 1 year. So it's all within npm js itself. It gives how to use it in a quick and concise way as well. So like we define a particular agenda, and then we call a asynchronous function, uh, asynchronous anonymous function to be precise, that starts it, uh, that takes in that duration and what what task to run, right? So we are defining here delete old users, okay, and last login if it's less than 2 days ago. This is, I think it's similar to the MQL, uh, the MongoDB query language. Okay, yeah, this is MongoDB. Sorry, because it's using. Okay, so we don't have to worry about this. Okay, so basically now it's just checking if the user last login user is less than 2 days ago, uh, meaning either it will remove, meaning remove the user if this condition is true. Okay, I'm not sure why they're removing less than 2 days ago. Right, ignore that. But so basically, here we can just put if it's user hasn't logged in for a year, then remove the user. And I want this particular, yeah, and I want this particular piece of code to be executed every 3 minutes. Save. So when in my server, every 3 minutes, it will run this. Okay, and it will check for all the users whether uh, the time duration of when that particular user is logged in. So I thought we could use something like this, and schedule some functions. Even email scheduling can be done and all that. So this is the main idea of agenda. Yeah, next one is Cloudinary. Cloud. Right now, we are not storing any images, any user profile images, or any thumbnail images for the articles as well. So using Cloudinary, we can upload images, we can edit those images as well. So the Cloudinary library helps us to do all of this. Yeah, so yeah, so it makes things easier. I mean, we are not using it right away, but I just kept it here as a reminder. Yeah, we can use this to implement that feature. All right. Next is marked. Okay, what does marked do? Right. Let's search it up. Okay, marked. Okay. Let's just go into the right. A low-level compiler for passing markdown without caching or blocking long periods of time. So passing markdown. That's the main thing, right? The name of our blog. Just a second. Yeah, so that's the core idea of our blog, right? Taking in Markdown and converting it to HTML. So that's the idea of this. What this does is it takes in Markdown and converts it to HTML. That's the main use of this library. So we don't have to create our own function to do it. We already have libraries out there that does it for us. And similarly, we before going to others, we have turned down. Okay. Yeah. Similarly, we have turned down, right? Turned down, and this is go. So we want a way to convert back HTML to Markdown again over here. So that's what turn down does. It takes in HTML and converts it into a Markdown. Mostly we won't be using it in the backend, but I had planned like we don't want to put much load on the client side. So everything that we need. Yes. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So turn down will be using to convert HTML to Markdown. That's the main use. Okay. Next we have moment. Moment, right? Let's just check it up on here again. Moment is basically a date time library that you can convert. You can just put in JavaScript dates. Those long numbers 1611, all that, which we have to convert into a certain date that is readable by humans, right? So with mark, we can do it. I'll do mark. Yes. This not mark. Moment. Right, moment, yes, and we'll just see it here. Okay. So basically, moment, it takes in a format. I mean, if there is no input, it means take in today's date. But if I provide a date over here, and I can use a dot format. So dot format, straightforward. If I just put something like this, it will return me the date. If I put in a format like this, it will return me in this way. So I don't have to, write my own functions to convert it into a day, year, date. All I have to do is pass in that particular date over here and pass in the format I want it as, and it will return to me as a string. Right. So this library does it for us. And then next we have MySQL library to allow us to connect to the MySQL database. Let's just take a look at it. There. The description is not needed. Okay. Right. So this is a Node.js driver for MySQL. It is written in JavaScript, does not require compiling, and is yeah. So that's not important. So basically, we can get in the SQL library inside our connection and create a connection by passing in the connection object that takes in your host, username, password, and which database to connect to, and then the dot connect method to connect it, and we can send queries and update for that particular tables, and then end the connection. Okay, right, so we can this is a library we'll be using to update our MySQL database. Next we have NanoID. NanoID I've already discussed with you guys. Since every user must have a unique ID and every article and comment also must have a unique ID, we don't want to write a function to create it. There's already a library that does it for us, right? So we are getting the nano ID, and then just calling the nano ID that will return a random string, so which is a unique string, right? And it will not be repeated again. So this is what we'll use for generating user IDs, article IDs, and even comment IDs over here. All right, and then node mailer. I'm not sure. We don't have much feature implementation as of it. Node mailer basically allows us to send emails from Node itself. Okay, so here it's not much clear. Let's go to that. We can do something like this. If the user has forgotten password, we can send an email to that user to reset their password, or even like a authenticate user kind of. Okay, so I'll just go into that usage. Yeah, so yeah, so over here we need to create a transporter. This will not get into much detail right now. Okay, so over here you can just put sorry, yeah, you can send a mail using the transporter.send mail. You can send from whom you want to your to the people you want to send it to, and yeah, a subject, a text, and you can even format send HTML as well. So yeah, we'll be using Node for this feature. It's not immediate, but yeah, it's a good reminder to have that yeah, we can implement the feature. Then rebrandly, most of you have heard of already. It's for creating short URLs. Yeah, promise-based client for the rebrandly API in Node.js. Okay, so we can, this all we'll have to do it. Okay. So it takes in a long link that we want to convert into a short link and returns it as the short link again. So you can use this to create short links for the.
ये ऐसे ही नेट खत्म होता रहेगा क्या?
Yeah,
चलते हैं, आज का
that's
सेशन हो गया.
sort of connection issues. Yeah. Alright. So yeah, rebrandly we saw and util. I know. Search. Okay, util. Alright. So this implements the Node.js util module that do not have. So basically, util, something like access, we can have our own promise-based events, promise-based functions set up in a quick and easy manner. You might It might be a bit tough to understand now, but once we see how to use it in this will be compiled up with the MySQL one, so we can send up queries in an easier manner. So yeah, util, we'll be using it to create like a promise-based function that will make writing SQL queries much easier for us, and we'll look into that when we start coding. Okay. And yeah, dev dependency means those dependencies that we don't need in our in our production environment. So .env is something we usually use in the production only, because by default .env is present in all production environments. Um, Morgan, right? Let's check out what Morgan is. Morgan, it's a logging library, HTTP request logger middleware for Node.js. Alright, so when you use Morgan, and then we'll use app.use Morgan, calling the Morgan function. So what this basically does, it makes error logging quite simpler. Okay, so we'll usually use it in the dev mode. Okay, so when we use Morgan logger, every time we put a request, it will log these things: what method it is, to what route the request was put, what was the status of that request, response of that request that we will provide, how much time it took to respond, and what content you respond with. So a detailed manner of almost everything that you require in one single uh, line itself. So Morgan does it for us, so we don't have to create our own logging function. uh, and yeah, node sass we discussed already. Let's look at it again. Okay, so node sass is for using sass within node.js projects also. So I mean, you don't have to do all of this requires sass. You just have to run one command that I've written over here. Node sass. It goes into your sass folder. Inside my sass folder, I'll have the SCSS files. Dash W means watch all the files in the sass. If there is any changes, then output those changes to my public CSS file. All right. Any doubts with the? I mean, it might seem like a lot and a bit confusing, but as we use them one by one, it will make more sense. Any doubts so far about any particular library as well? I mean, can be uh, anything like this. Feel free to put in the chat box also. Any doubts about these libraries as a whole? I mean, if there's no doubts, then we can continue, right? So, what was the next thing, right? So, next one was the talking about what project structure we are going to follow. Have any of you heard of the MVC structure before coming to this? The MVC framework to building projects. Okay, okay, no doubts. Have any of you heard of the MVC framework?
Where could you repeat again?
Uh, have you heard of the MVC framework? Something like
Not
MVC.
really, not really.
Okay, all right. I'll just give it a quick overview. Okay, so you could just Google up MVC and just I'll just go to the images, right? Uh, let's just take something simple. Yeah, this one. Okay, so MVC stands for the Model View Controller, right? So whenever you're building a project, we split the project into three parts: the model, the view, and the controller, right? So you as a user, your only interaction comes from the two parts: the view and the controller. Okay, so the view as name, what the user sees, right? So I think this is better. Yeah, so what the user sees is the view. Okay, so anything in the website is what the view consists of. In our case, it's the views file or folder over here. So this is what the user sees. All right. Then what does the user control? So all the requests that the user put, right? So yeah, I want to follow this user. So he clicks on the button. So that he the user is using a controller in that case. So that controller, what it does is it goes into your model. Model stands nothing but the database. It puts a query to the database. Hey, this user wants to follow that particular user, so update it in the database. And once it's updated, there's two ways. Either the model can, uh, send back this one. Model can, response to the controller, and the controller can update the view again. Or in the previous case, such as this, the model can directly control the view. But we'll be sticking with most probably this one, okay? Because there is no way for SQL to send directly to EJS. Just a second. All right. Yeah, so there's no way for SQL, MySQL DBMS to directly update the EJS. So this is the file, our project structure. So to wrap it up, model view controller. Model is the database. Okay, that holds all the. Just a second. It's anyone trying to join it now. Alright, I'm not sure getting the sound. Okay, so model is the database. Okay, all the database related stuff will be within the model. Okay, then the view is the views folder, or is what the user actually sees, and the controller is the logic, the business logic of the project, is what the user interacts with. Any doubts with this, the MVC framework? I mean, this is small, just.
Nope.
All right, so let's just see how in Atom, right? In Atom, we had implemented the MVC framework. It's kind of like a monolithic way. I'm used to see in here, but I mentioned monolithic was modular. So in Atom, it's like monolithic way. So this is the backend branch. All right. So we have models, we have the controls, right, and the routers as well. Routers, you can say it's kind of like the view is what we are setting to the user. Okay, so let's just see models first. Okay, so in models, we have defined the user database structure over here, and all the functions related to the database in the models file for the user. Okay, a simple one. Forget Mongo schema, all that. So just the user has a name, obviously, user has a bio, user has a title, all that. So this is the database structure or the model of the project, all right? And there are particular functions that are associated directly with the model, right? So in this case, it's like a generate default avatar, right? So it's like this is associated directly with the user, with the model itself. So we don't have to declare it anywhere else, all right? Then next we have the controllers. Okay, I'll go back to controllers and I'll go to user controller.js. So in this, as I told you, it's the business logic. It's what the user interacts with, right? So uh, yeah, so sign up user. So this is a particular function that the user will do once he puts in all his sign in details. We are sending a request to the model. So as you can see, I've gotten the user model from the models folder, and I'm just placing in the data, and I'm creating a new user, right? So this is the controller, and then I'm just responding back to the views. In this our case, views is the React file. React is the front end. So yeah, so the React is the views. Uh, yeah, so uh, this is the controller part. But now you see, so when I'm studying user, right, I'm going to use a controller, and I can see there's a user models over here, and yeah, I'm seeing over here again user, new user. How is this actually working, right? So I have to go back, come out to the files again, then again go back to the models, right, and again go to user. Okay, so this gets a bit irritating because all the logic for my project is split into three files. That is the since this is a merge stack project, there's the React is the separate, but just imagine there's a views folder here as well. So it gets a bit irritating from going from the controllers to the models to the views again. Uh, so that's where I came across this one. So there's this repo called Node Best Practices, and I've been doing a lot of research actually on what is actually the best file structure. So I've combined a few here and there. So the first one itself, you can see Node uh, project uh, project structure practices, right? So yeah, over here let's just go here. A bad good file biotechnical rule. I wouldn't say it's exactly bad. If it's a small project, yes, it makes sense to group them according to your controller models and all that. So this is somewhat similar to what we have done, right? The main fallback being here is I have to go from one file to another and to learn the logic of one particular feature. That is the user feature. I have to go to the controllers, I have to go to the models and all that. So it gets a bit time consuming and irritating, right? So instead of that, the best practice is usually to separate your components or your app features according to that particular feature. So in this case, user, right? So user itself has everything: user controller, the user model, and all that within one particular file. Easier to navigate, easier to read as well, right? And a lot of other best practices as well. So I've been reading all this. So we'll integrate most of this in our own project as well. All right. I will share this with you at the end as well, so you can take it. And this is an example of how people have arranged it in other practices as well. Alright, so I mean, one more thing I read over here was you remember how the envs we have to load it using the process uh, dot env and then the env name, right? And suppose say there's a change in the env name. It's suppose say I'm just changing here, okay? Then I have to go and search wherever I've changed it as well. So what it's usually recommended is to load all your environment variables in a particular config file, okay? In a config file. So how it's actually done. So I'll go to the config, I'll go to connection JSON. All right. So I think the collection, yes, will be possible. All right. So okay. Oh, just imagine over here. I'll just put a exports, and there will be my uh, env names in a form of JSON, right? So in when it's in JSON, it's more readable, and whenever I'm changing it, I will be changing it only in my env file and in my JSON. And what instead of accessing my required .env.config everywhere, I'll just be needing it in one specific location. So that is why it's recommended to keep a separate config file and load all your envs in there. So we'll be doing that as well. And yeah, lots of other things as well. Yeah, all this I will share. You can take a look at this as well of the best practices when you're doing. Yes, here it is config db.js. So yeah, you can see I'm loading the .env here and I'm exporting these directly in from one single location. All right. Yeah. So and then on this one also is very good. This one follows the monolithic MVC framework, but yeah, you don't have to worry about it much. Just the some practices over here can be combined uh, here. All right. And yeah, so that was the main idea of having. Well, let's just see how I've organized it over here. Okay. I'll just zoom in. This is a blog, right? Ignore this all not needed. Okay, ignore this as well. All right. So once you run a yarn command in your terminal, it will install your node modules, right? And it will automatically be updated as I've put it in the git ignore already. All right, so you don't have to worry about that. I've even ignored the .env itself, and these are like the db connections. So we don't have to worry about that much now. Okay, so public file. The public file is what we'll be serving to the user itself. So all that will be separated into your CSS, your images, and your JavaScript separately. This is what we will be showing to the user. This reference file was our, the MongoDB schema that we created. If I come to here, yeah, so this image that we created was from that reference file. All right, so you don't have to worry about this one. You'll be accessing this with the diagrams.net. All right. Before we come to the SRC, this drop deep source, this is nothing but something cool I found called deepsource.io that automatically notices error in and shows best practices. Okay. To give you a small clue, may not sign up. Just, all right. So I'll just go into this one and issues. Okay. Yeah, so it'll look into your file, the whole project, and it'll give you all the issues, like what are the best practices, what are you doing wrong, what can be done better, what are the bug risk, anti patterns. All these will be given. In this case, suppose you see this first one, right? So I had written some code like this. If this one, then return this, else return this. This can be written much easier with using a ternary operator like this. So this automatically creates a pull request for you or opens an issue that tells you how you can write this in a much cleaner format. So yeah, instead of us worrying about reading the code and trying to find this, we have another source that does it for us. So that's the main idea over here. And yeah, .env to store all our environment variables. I will share all of this so you can store it as well. .get ignore to ignore the files that should not go into your GitHub account or even to your production. Alright, then app.js is our main entry point for the server, which you can see it's already updated here. Alright, and finally favicon.ico, right? So this is a quick logo idea. I'm not sure if it's good or not. You can always give your input on changing it. So it is recommended that every project have a favicon.ico, so that I mean it's not something that we can control. By default, all browser put a request to this one, so it's like your identity icon of your particular website. So I just kept it over here. All right. And finally the src, right? So src has split into two files, app and the helper. Okay, so app, right? So app is our main application, the blog application. And I told you we'll be taking a modular approach, right? So if I go into the user feature, I have four files: controller, index, model, and routes. Alright, so why an index file? We'll look into that as well. So controller will hold all our logic. Model will hold our database logic in here. This is the what logic, business logic that the user puts in will be stored in the controller.js. And routes, finally, once we make that, we will assign it to a specific route using routes.js and export it into the index.js. Yeah, seems like a lot, but it keeps things organized and more readable. All right, so this is our app file. we will you'll get a hang of it once we make small features here and there. Okay, finally we have the helper, right? So as mentioned, we have to have a config file where we load all our envs, right? Then we mailer is basically the node mailer that I thought we could use. Middleware will be our where we'll show our middleware functions. So there'll be a auth function, then a collection of all the app functions. And the SAS folder is basically all the SAS files over here. Okay, so we have to run the node SAS so that we get the output in the public file. Uh, yeah, and the database.js where we'll write a script to connect to our database and then export it. All right, and yeah, the views is what the user sees. So we are using .ejs to create dynamic templates. So in the two files, partials and components. So yeah, partials will be the footer, header, and all that. And components is basically common components that we will use throughout, some like error models or success models or even like information models, all that. And a skip to main content All this we don't have to worry. Views is the least of our concerns at the moment. So we are just working on the back end as of now. All right. Any doubts so far?
No, Kunal.
All right. All right. Cool. Okay. So we saw right the monolithic and the modular. We are following the modular MVC approach because it's more easily maintainable. You can easily add features, and it's more readable at the same time. It's not to say that the monolithic MVC approach is bad. It's one of the greatest thing that ever happened, But as a project becomes big, it becomes more tough to read in a monolithic approach. Okay, that's why we are going with the modular MVC approach in this case. Yeah, I think this one might take some time. No issues. Let's just uh, let's just not worry much about the UI as of now. We can just start with the backend. Uh, so let's just quickly set up our app.js. Okay. Does anyone remember how to initialize a Express application? You know what? Yeah, actually, you guys can code along with me. Live share. I hope all of you have this extension called Live Share. If not, you can install that now. Basically, what it does, it allows. I will be sharing a link, and you can join it, and and yeah, you can code along with me in my file in this case. Okay, just try this out. I've worked with others with this, but I've never shared my own session. Yeah, I mean, you have to install this live share extension before actually trying to come in. Okay. So, yeah, if you remember this extension and live share, yeah, just install this. Is there anyone trying to join right now?
It's installing this. Yeah.
Install it already. Yeah, so Shitanshu just joined, right? Yeah, so I can see him over here. He's in the app.js file as well. Alright, so I have option to whether I should follow where he's typing, or he can click on me and follow me like this. Alright. Alright, let's just quickly set up. Does anyone remember how to set up an Express application? It's just getting those libraries into our entry point. There is the app.js. Okay, Sile is here as well, right? Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'm not sure who is following right now. Is it Chetanshu or Sile?
I'm doing that.
You're doing all right, right? Okay. Yeah, that's you're doing it right. Yeah. So yeah, you first get your Express uh, library into your app.js. Okay. Uh, what was next? Yeah, you initialize the Express application. Yeah, you're proceeding correct. That's right. Yeah, and then you place in a port from where you want to view your file from. I mean, where you want to access the server from, right?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, then straightforward app get default route get yeah, it takes in two two parameters, that is your route where you want to send it from.
I don't remember after this.
Yeah, basically get, you can just hover over it, right? So it takes in, you can see that it takes in your route. I mean, it's not showing you it. I mean, the default one was you specify the route, and then you a callback function that takes in two parameters, the request and response. Okay, so respond with send initialized. Okay, that's simple like this. Okay, and then rest was app.listen that takes in the port, right? So you just pass in port and a callback function, and just put console dot after it's listening console dot log. This server running uh, at http localhost, and you just type in the port or your control J. And how do I start this, right? So if I go back to my package.json, there's two things I've done. One is a default start that will just do a node dot. In this case, it will just run the server, but whenever I make some changes, it will not restart it. So, and then there's a dev start script as well. So I'll just come here, I'll save this. Okay. How do I run it? It's simple. You should do npm run and then this one out, npm start, right? In this case, same yarn run dev start. Okay, and yeah, so it gave me that, it consoled it over here. So I'll click on this, and yeah, it's initialized. All right, so I mean, the one more cool thing about live share is I can share my server as well. So I'll just come over here. I think this one. Okay, yeah, so you can just come over to your live share tab, and over here shared servers, and you can click on it,
Yeah, it's already giving the option.
giving the option. Hey,
Both
that's
are
cool. So
shared.
yeah, so we can work in a collaborative meet like this. You guys can come to my VS Code, edit in specific parts. You can see I can share the server, and you can see the my local server in your desktop as well,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, pretty cool. We can work as a team over here, and yeah, so we've done that as well.
How
I'm
do we
not.
share using a live sharing? You have to go to the extension setting and then share, right?
Yeah, just come to your extensions, and it will, right now since I'm sharing, it's giving me the option. Usually it will give you a tab over here, share now on join session.
Okay, in the extension. Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
all right. So over here itself will show you two click big blue button will be there, share now or join session. Okay, so when you click share now, it will create that link which I've just shared to you, or if you put join now, it will ask you for this link,
Oh, okay.
right? Okay, and then yeah, the next one was I mean, we thought we'll finalize the UI plan with this. I know I don't like thinking about UI much. It's quite irritating. I mean, what we can do is we don't have to worry much about the UI now. We can just pretty much do a copy, clone, or get combine multiple UI of the medium for the for the hash node, or even the dev.to combine their UI and create one. So yeah, it's already ready for us to see from. So we don't have to worry much about that. Let's just focus on finishing the backend first. All right.
Bhaiya, could you please send the link for the live share extension?
The like joining the session, right?
Yeah. Like
This
I
one.
don't have live share on my VS Code.
Right. Live share.
can download it directly in the
Yeah,
VS Code extension
I mean,
section.
either you can come to your extension and search LiveShare. It will be the Microsoft one, or you can. I mean, there's a share option here. Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, this one. Okay. Yeah. So, what do you guys think? Do we should we work on the UI later? You know, we can just use these three sources to check it out. I mean, UI. There's lots of thinking that goes into the UI. That's why I'm saying that.
We can
Yeah,
work on
actually,
that.
we need more members to think upon, and then we'll also have to make a wireframe to go further.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat it?
Yeah, yeah, you're saying right. It needs a bit of time, and making wireframes means finalizing the UI will need opinion of everyone. So we can do that.
Yeah, we can. We can even work on the UI as we go. But
Yeah.
let's just get started with the backend first. All right. So yeah, I hope all of you have forked it, have run it locally, and installed yarn and install all the dependencies as well. Next up, I want all of you to come to your project and create a .env file. Okay, and in your .env, you just don't need all of it. I think just these alone. Just copy and I just paste this one in your end. All right. Okay, so the just one last thing we'll do for today. You can just come to your SRC helper and config. Right. So in the config, we just load our envs over here. All right. So I'll just put require .env config. Okay. And module exports. I'll directly export an object. Okay. So in my object, I want to export the database connection details and database. Obviously, there are two database connections if you see in the env. One is the development and one is the production, right? So development, that will be an object as well. And the other one is the production. Okay. So over here we had two things, right? The host, so process.env dot, I think it was, this is .env. Put it separately and come back here. So process.env and yeah, db underscore dev underscore host. Okay, same thing for the name. Okay, I'm not sure. Process.env.db underscore uh, pss. I'm just saying what was there over there. It's there. So user URL process.env.db underscore dev underscore user. Right, so, I mean, if you see, if I was going to type all of this directly, it's a bit hectic, right? So when I load it all in my config file, I can just go into any other file, import it, and all I have to do is just put database.development.host. Makes it much easier to access them instead of typing all of this like this. But I think if I'm not wrong, other one should be, yeah, I forgot how exactly to save the DB name. But let's hope not focus on that much. So similarly, we can just copy this, paste it, and instead of dev, it will be prod. So just come over here. Okay, dev, production. Alright, so something like this. Similarly, I can just get in my secrets as well. Secrets. So I JWT secret similar process dot env dot JWT underscore secret, and then write nano ID length. Uh, this one is, oh yeah, one thing to mention, whenever you're getting anything from your env, it returns it in the form of a string, right? I read the documentation, nano ID only accepts a number, right? So, what approach do you think would be good to convert this to a number? Any idea? I mean, there was a particular built-in JavaScript one you can use. Do you guys have like any clue what it might be? Let's just see it out as well, right? Okay, so let's do console.log, say 8. Okay. It'll give me in form of a string. Usually, uh, what JavaScript does is parse int. So this is what we use to convert into a number. So yeah, you can see now it's a number in this case. But instead of doing all of this, I just found it recently myself as well. You just put a plus in front of it. So I'll clear this, I'll run it, and it returns me a number again. So I just put, let's just confirm type of number there. Right, so over here I can just do a plus process dot env dot uh, nano id underscore length. Yeah, as simple as that. Generally id length. Uh, why to nano id length is basically for the users. Is what I'm going to set the id for the user id, and id length is like small for the comments and for the articles. So similarly, plus process dot env dot id underscore length. Yeah, and finally my salt. Similarly, this also number. So process dot env dot salt. Okay, so yeah, and finally my port and this other thing I'll put it up. So port is my process dot env dot port, and my node env. Okay, so we will see in detail about node env in the next session. Okay, so this final process dot env dot node env, and that process. So now how do I actually use it in my other files, right? I can just come over here. Okay. I do const. I'll just keep it empty for now and require dot slash src slash helper. That's config, right? And if you see why I've put an index file everywhere, right? So database index.js, right? So when I put index, I don't have to come here and put slash index, right? If I just leave it empty, by default it goes into index. Like how in GitHub, whenever you host a static page, it goes into index.html. Similarly, it goes into the index.js. So it is a best practice to keep index.js like this. Okay. So I'll put config, meaning it will directly go to index.js. So I'll come here. I can just put the port, as simple as that, and it will take in the same thing over here. So I'll save this, restart. Okay, .env port 5000, and yeah, config port. Okay, I've put it inside database. My bad. This should be outside as well, not inside the database. Come on. Yeah, and that's it. Running at port 5000. So I'll come back here. I'll change it to 5000, and yeah, it's working now. Alright, so just basic config file setup we did for today. And next session we'll build, you know, we'll discuss the routes that we'll actually need, the pages we'll need in more detail, and we'll start with the basic sign in, sign up routes, and the auth middleware. So, any doubts today's session?